Hello there and welcome back. It's your girl Daphne. We're having another cooking video. This time I'll be cooking roast pork, Spanish rice with gandules, and fried cabbage. These are three things that I love to cook for my family, and it's something that is very easy, but it does take a little time to be able to prepare the roast pork, but once it's done, it is so worth it. So sit back, relax, and enjoy me cooking. Okay, so we're getting started. This is a 7.5 pound roast pork shoulder. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash the meat really, really good. Really important that your meat is really clean. This one is particularly nice because it has a nice, thick, fatty skin side. And boy, once this gets roasted up, it's going to be so tender and juicy. Okay, so now that we have the meat washed and waiting, we're going to move over to the seasoning. And usually I just eyeball the amount of seasoning that I put on any dish that I use. But I will try to give you some type of guidance. So in the bowl, I've added 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I'm going to put in sea salt. And sea salt, I would say, it's really going to be to taste. But I would say do half a teaspoon. And for the pepper, it's going to be the seasoning. I just, do a little shake. And then we are going to be adding cumin. And for the cumin, we're going to add 1 teaspoon. For the oregano, we're going to be adding a half a teaspoon. For the garlic, usually you want to have a decent amount of garlic. So I am going to add 2 teaspoons of garlic. I like to use the freeze-dried cilantro because it really stays fresh for a longer period of time. And I would say that's about a teaspoon of cilantro. And we also have 1 packet of Sazon. And once you have all of that, you just want to mix it up until it becomes a nice little paste consistency. And then we're going to apply this to the meat. I just remembered I forgot to put in the onion powder. So for the onion powder, I just shake a certain amount in. If I had to say, I would say it's about 1/4 teaspoon. And now we're really ready. So we're going to now move on to applying the seasoning to the roast. So I'm going to bring my pan over that I'm going to be cooking the roast in. So you want to make sure that you season both sides of the roast. Okay, so we're at the point where we're going to be adding the seasoning to the roast pork. And what I like to do, because you want to make sure that it's seasoned well on both sides, and we're going to be cooking the shoulder with the fatty side face up. So we're going to season the bottom side first. So just make sure you mix it very well. And then I just like to put a generous amount, half on this side with your spoon. And then you really need to get your hands dirty. That's the best part about cooking, is that you can really get your hands dirty and really show your love for the meat. So you really want to rub it in, coat it very well, so that you'll have nice, yummy food coming out of the oven. So just take a moment to really season your meat, because you will really enjoy it later. So once we get the bottom side seasoned, we're going to turn it over and we're going to season the top side. Now, one of the reasons why we roast it with the top side, with the fatty side up, is because when it is cooking slow and crisping up, you want to make sure that the fatty side is getting nice, crisp, and brown. So the way to be able to achieve that is to have it up so that it's not touching the bottom of the pan. So this one looks like it's nicely well coated. Now, what I usually do is wrap it up in a little aluminum foil or saran wrap, and I put it in the oven, the refrigerator for 2 hours, or you can do it overnight. In my case, I'm going to put it inside of the refrigerator because I'm going to be cooking it today. And I'm going to let it marinate for the 2 hours, and then I'm going to take it out and I'm going to pop it in the oven at a setting of 275 degrees. And we're going to cook it obviously very low and slow. So we're going to put it in, let it roast for 3 hours, and then we're going to check it right after that. Okay, so I just took out of the refrigerator because it's been about 2 hours, the shoulder. So now I'm going to pop it in the oven. And as I said, it's set at 275, and we're going to pop it in for 3 hours. And while that is cooking in the oven, we'll move on to the side dishes. Okay, so while the pork is in the oven, we're going to start on the 2 side dishes. So I use long grain parboiled rice. I'm going to be putting 4 cups. I'm going to be washing the rice to remove the starch from the rice. Some people wash their rice and others don't. I believe in washing my rice. And I usually do a double rinse. Okay, so now that we have the rice all done, I usually just add it to the pot with it off. I like to get all of my ingredients in the pot before I turn the flame on. So we're going to be adding tomato sauce. And for this amount of rice, I usually put a full can. Again, these spices are going to be based on taste. So I usually put a couple of sprinkles of pepper, onion powder, Cilantro, I'm using the same freeze dry. And I'll put 3 pinches of it. For the sea salt, I usually put a couple of shakes of that. I also put adobo. I put garlic. I put the Better Than Bouillon chicken base. And I usually put a nice little glob of it. And the last thing that I put is a Sazon packet. Okay. So the last thing in is going to be the gandules, and that's a full can. I rinsed it and poured off the juice itself. So what we're going to do now is just turn the flame on high. I'm just going to give it a quick stir. Last thing that we're going to be adding is 2 cups of water. We're going to let this boil, come to a boil on high, and let a little bit of the water evaporate out. Once that happens, then we're going to lower it down to low, and we're going to let it simmer. So here's how we're looking. It's just being put in, and I'm waiting for it to boil. Okay, so it's coming to a boil now. So what I'm gonna do is reduce it down to low. I'm gonna separate out the middle and just put a little oil in it. And then I'm just going to cover it up and let it simmer for about a half an hour. Okay, so while the pork and the rice is cooking, I'm going to move on to making the cabbage. So I'm just slicing up the cabbage. Just making long julienne slices. I'm no chef, so I'm just doing my best to try and cut it up. After it's cut up, I'm going to move over to the sink and wash it very well. Okay, so now we're just going to wash the cabbage, just making sure that you separate each piece, because you do not want to have any type of insects or anything like inside of the cabbage. So that's why it's very important to just thoroughly wash it. Okay, so I just chopped up the red onion, 1 small red onion, and a half of red bell pepper. I'm gonna add this to the pan and I'm gonna saute it. Okay, so I have the stove on medium. I'm gonna be using a little olive oil. I'm gonna let it heat up. I'm gonna add in the peppers and onions. Let me give you a little closer look. I love the red color. It's gonna look so amazing once we get the cabbage in there. So I'm just gonna let this reduce down a little. Okay, so now that this has been sauteing for a little while, I'm gonna add a little more olive oil. And we're gonna start adding in the cabbage. We're going to add in the cabbage gradually. And try not to drop too much on the stove. We really want it to get coated with the olive oil and start to reduce down a little. And I don't start adding in my seasoning until I can get the cabbage reduced down slightly. Okay, this is a good time to start adding in the seasoning. So I am going to be adding garlic, a little adobo, a little salt, a little pepper, a little bit of onion powder, and I do add in chicken bouillon, the Better Than bouillon, and I like to coat it. It gives it a lot of flavor. And I'm just going to continue to reduce. I'm going to mix it around right now so that it's coated. I'm going to give you a closer look. So this is how we're looking. I'm going to go ahead and add in the balance of the cabbage. Okay, so everything has started reducing down. So I'm just going to go in with a little red pepper flakes because I like it to be a little spicy. And mix it around a little more. Check the moisture level on it. I'm going to add in a couple of tablespoons of water, and I'm going to reduce it down, and I'm going to let it simmer. Okay, so we're going to take the shoulder out and we're going to check on it. It's been another 2 hours. This grease is popping. Woo. Okay, so we are doing wonderful here. It's so tender. The crust is hard. It's wonderful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it back in the oven and let it continue to do its thing. Okay guys, so it's been about 5 minutes that it's been simmering and it's looking very good. What I'm going to do is add in some paprika, and I'm going to take a little taste test. If I need to, I'm going to add a little more salt. If not, I'm just going to let it cook for another 5 minutes. Okay, so we're going to check it. And it looks perfect to me. I tasted it. I didn't have to add any additional salt. And I did add the paprika. And I don't want it to be mushy. This is the perfect consistency for the fried cabbage. So I'm going to turn it off and let it set. Okay, so it's been a half an hour. So now I'm going to check on the rice again. Stir it up a little because it's been cooking. And it looks perfect. Perfectly tender rice. Let me let you get a closer look. All right, so we're finished with this side. Okay, so we are ready to take this out of the oven. It has been a total of 7 hours cooking. So what I did was, after the 3-hour cooking, I just put a little balled up aluminum foil so that when the grease was dropping into the bottom of the pan, that it didn't pop up and mess up the oven. So we're ready to let this rest for about 5 minutes or so, and then I'm gonna get it on the cutting board and I'm gonna chop it up. Okay, so we have it on the cutting board. I just wanted to show you that it's golden brown and hard, nice and crispy. So what I'm gonna do is flip it over so that we can cut it, and look at all of the juice. Okay, look how juicy it is. Oh my goodness. My mouth is watering. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this up and I'm gonna plate it. Okay guys, so we have it all dished up, and I have Alex here to do a taste test. Okay, so I'm gonna let Alex be the first one to try.
Hello. I'm gonna start with this cabbage.
I'm gonna start with the meat because this is what I've been waiting for.
Pretty good. Then let me
Get this meat.
Let me go to the rice.
Oh my goodness, it tastes so good. You have a little cabbage. Slow down, Alex. Guys, this is delicious. Sorry that I'm talking with my mouth full, but I've enjoyed cooking with you. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for watching. And as usual, if you like what you see, please subscribe, like, share, and leave a comment down below. Until next time, have a blessed day.